one complaint that people have had about the M50 ever since it was released back in 2018 is the lack of proper video assist for getting exposure. Nowadays, it's sort of become standard in Panasonic, Nikon, and Sony cameras that we have video assist. We have zebras and waveforms and vector scopes and all sorts of things for getting our exposure and our color right. But for one reason or another, Canon has not put any of those assist features into their cameras, especially the more budget-end photography cameras that a lot of us are using for video. I'm not going to speculate about that, but go crazy down in the comment section. But luckily, even though we don't have some of the better video assist features for getting our exposure, we still have one. And it's one that, talking to a lot of people on YouTube and on other social media platforms, that people don't really know how to use. Now, I think the biggest reason for this is because all of the other assist features like zebras, which in my opinion are way better for getting exposure than your histogram, or, I mean, a waveform? Come on, way better than histogram. But since those have sort of become standard in cameras, people have not been making as much content talking about the more basic stuff that we had before them. Now, if you don't have a histogram on your screen already, you can go into your menu and turn that on. That way you have it on your screen. Now, keep in mind, and this is one disadvantage of how Canon integrated the histogram, is once you start recording, the histogram goes off. And now that you're looking at your histogram, look at the left side and the right side. These are the two extremes of your exposure. The left side is your lows and the right side is your highs, meaning the left side is your darkest parts of your image and the right side is the brightest parts of your image. If you look, when I adjust the video so it'll be brighter, all of my exposure values go onto the right side. Whereas if I darken it up, my exposure values go to the right side. And basically, when we are trying to expose an image, what we want is we want to have most of our exposure values in the middle. Now, because it just judges from the overall shot, if you have a shot like this, you have really dark shadows and a really bright sky, one of the things you'll have to keep in mind is that you're trying to expose for your subject. So if you're trying to expose for subject that's in the shadows, then more of your exposure values are going to have to be on that right side, which means that the overall image is brighter, and you might lose, like in this shot, taking a video of the microphone, you actually lose almost all of the information out the window. But if you were trying to do more of like a silhouette where you were trying to get the images out of the sky, then you could try to expose for the sky. You'll see that the majority of your exposure values are going over to the left, and that is your shadows. And keep in mind that everything to that extreme left means that there's no detail in those shadows. It is what we call crushed. You cannot recover any detail from the shadow. But when you go to the flip side and you have any of your exposure values touching the right side of your histogram, then somewhere in your image you don't have any detail in your highlight. Now that you know the basics of histogram, how you actually use it is you try and get your subject pretty well exposed. Sometimes you're going to have your subject a little bit darker because you're trying to retain more information in your highlight. And so if your overall image is darker, then your highlights are going to be a little bit darker and you won't have as many blown out highlights. But if you have to expose your subject a little brighter because you have something more in the shadows that you need to show as well, then you're going to have to sacrifice some of your highlight. Unfortunately, with the M50 that doesn't have really good dynamic range, a lot of times you had to sacrifice either the shadows or the highlights. You cannot always get both in the shot. Try to have nothing in your frame. Like in this frame, I don't have any really deep shadows or deep highlights. And when you're out vlogging, doing run and gun stuff, that's something you need to keep in mind, is trying to frame your shots so that you don't have a deep shadow that you're trying to expose for with a huge blown out sky like in this shot. It just doesn't look as good. You can use location and framing in order to expose your images better, because you don't want to have a wide dynamic range when you have a camera that does not have the support for that wide dynamic range. Now, I know that wasn't like an amazing, really in-depth explanation that really showed you the science, but what I hope that this explanation gave you is enough practical tips that you can start learning how to use the histogram. I'm not really good with the science of why it works, but I want to still be able to share with you that it works and the basics of how to use it so that you can go out and start learning for yourself. If you found this video helpful, please give me a like, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and that is the end of the technical information. Now, I'm gonna give a little bit of a channel update because we just had another baby. If you saw my community posts, I posted a picture of her, or if you're following me on Instagram, I also posted a picture over there. She is so cute. Baby number 5. And actually, this is the second child that we've had since we started vlogging, which is insane to me. I'll link the video about the last one up in the cards. I probably won't do a video like that for this one, but I am just... I am so excited, and also if my upload schedule is a little bit wonky, that's why. I'm still going to be trying to do the same upload schedule, but you know how that goes. I mean, we are busy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Come on.
Look what I got. Baby. What do you think? This is Adelaide. Isn't she cute?
Yep, very cute.
We got a baby.